Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you, and happy to be joined by Greg Keagle again, sitting in for Tariq Spence, our Mr. Baseball.
It's always a pleasure to be back.
Alrighty, and Pat Duffy in uniform, the Amerks, the best uniforms ever.
Sunday, I agree, this is the best sweater in the history of hockey. 5:05, Sunday, home game, come on. Keep this run going.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, that first series was absolutely amazing, but...
Two overtime games. You're getting ahead of yourself. Hey, let's talk a little baseball. We're 6 weeks in. How seriously do you take what happens to the first 6 weeks of a 162-game baseball season?
Well, I think, the greatest part about baseball is that every out matters. You can go back and talk about how if we only made this play or had this win back in April, it would have made a difference, in October. So it does matter. However, baseball's a marathon, not a sprint. And that cliche matters because you have to be able to be good for a long period of time. And some of the success that we're seeing early could just be a flash in the pan. But I think what you have to look for are, again, I'm a chemistry guy. You have to look for certain parts. How did they win? How are they winning? What are the reasons why they're winning? You look at, Homer, you look at the Yankees, Aaron Judge hits a big walk-off home run. Things like that will carry farther than one game because that's a confidence builder. That's a clubhouse builder. Now your big dog has a game-winning home run and that makes everybody in that clubhouse feel better. So looking at things like that, that makes a team for real. So I think you have to look at that.
On the other hand, you hit the halfway mark. Two recent World Series champions in Washington and Atlanta were below 500 halfway through the season and wound up winning the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it is strange. Granted, it's a marathon more than it is a sprint. I do find it funny how baseball purists especially, they won't start talking about what records is probably towards the end of the playoffs. Well, if they would have won this game in October, if they would have won this game in... No, those games count the same. Yeah. They're all weighed the same, right? Like, you're 3 games out come playoff time. Those 3 games could be made up in April and May and June. I will say this. The American League East right now is unbelievably exciting, and it sucks because it's getting swallowed up by the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs, which I've also been watching. But between the Yankees, between what's going on with the Blue Jays, right? Between what the heck is going on with the Red Sox right now, plus the rivalries that kind of come from all the fandoms in Western New York, I mean, it's a blast.
It was unnecessary to bring up the Boston team, I think.
Well, no, I just wanted to make sure you knew what was going on with Boston right now.
I think I have a clue. So New York and New York, the Mets and the Yankees are both, they were the first 2 teams to 20 wins this year. Which team do you like better, Greg?
Oh, man. I gotta lean towards the Mets just because you have to go towards pitching. And when you have, the couple guys that they have, those studs at the top of the lineup with DeGrom and Scherzer, and then you look at this young guy, with McGill and what he's doing, and, we talked about the fact is it a flash in the pan? He's throwing 98 miles an hour. His slider is devastating. He's worked on adjusting his slider, brought it down, not to get too technical, but he's lowered his arm slot a little bit, which makes the slider a little bit more sweep. It may not have as much depth, but it gives it time to break more because of the angles, and it's certainly playing well for him.
I love that over 10 years, Pat, that we haven't heard anyone say lower the arm slot. In 10 years.
I've been saying that when you leave every week, man, every week.
As advice?
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately for the Yankees, they have a couple of the best teams in baseball right now in their own division and in the American League. So we'll see what happens, as the season progresses. The Yankees are, Bronx Bombers. They win with the long ball. They win with hitting, and hitting can go into a slump. So if that happens, a guy gets hurt, or a guy or two gets hurt, injuries play a role.
Greg, of course, was a pitcher. This is the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Buffalo Bills segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations and celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right at ralphhonda.com. Jerry Hughes is no longer a Buffalo Bill. I just, and I guess we all kind of expected that. So I'm going to lead off. Has Jerry Hughes got a spot on the wall someday?
That's tough. Okay, you got to look who's not on the wall right now. Aaron Schobel, who you can make the argument is a better pass rusher in a Bills super fan legend, right? He's not on the wall. Mario Williams, I think you can make the argument, is a better pass rusher, is never going to be on the wall because of the way things worked out here. Is Jerry Hughes better than Phil Hansen was? Is Jerry Hughes better than Jeff Wright was playing the defensive tackle position? I would like to see it, yes. But the Bills get really weird about who they decide goes on the wall. I think the combination of what he did on the field, the combination of him coming out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, don't forget, he showed up in Buffalo for Kelvin Shepherd. Kelvin Shepherd brought Jerry Hughes to Buffalo. I think yes, only because you have to find a way to honor guys like Fred Jackson, like Kyle Williams, like Jerry Hughes, who were the foundation for what this team has become, but weren't really able to reap the benefits if the ultimate goal is attained over the next couple of years.
I feel like it's so sad because he came so close. I mean, this is the Bills team going into this coming season, and he's not on it.
Yes, that's, like, I'm going to always bring back to baseball, but it reminds me like the Don Mattingly years, right? It's always the player that's really good for a team, but they just can't quite get there, and then all of a sudden they leave, and that's when the team starts to have success. And hopefully for the Bills fans, that's the case for Jerry Hughes, with Jerry Hughes leaving. But I think, I agree with Pat. I think that, I think it's okay to be selective on who goes on the wall, but I think that the criteria in this situation certainly, merit him being there.
The other interesting part about this, it's funny, right? Like, we're sitting here bemoaning the fact that Jerry Hughes is leaving before this could be a Super Bowl run season next year. I mean, what a difference 5 years makes when we were sad that Fred Jackson was leaving, having never played in a playoff game, or that Kyle Williams was leaving, having never won a playoff game. Like, I mean, look, when you compare it to those other guys that were drought superstars, right? Your Aaron Schobels, your Chris Kelsey's, those guys. Man, he's had a heck of a run.
And also, if you look at the distribution of those names, probably by era, you don't think like, God, the period of time that he played probably doesn't deserve to have 3 guys on it.
That's a great point. I mean, there's a lot of Bills fans are going to get upset with me. I mean, if you're going to drop somebody from those 3, the Fred Jackson, the Kyle Williams, and Jerry Hughes.
Oh, you are going to get into trouble here.
Fred Jackson. I mean, go look at the numbers. If I'm not mistaken, he rushed for 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards one time. Granted, he's fighting for carries with C.J. Spiller and Marshawn Lynch.
But he was Fred Jackson.
I love him. He's not the guy.
So one of your things, uniforms obviously is big. Josh Allen's 3rd now in jersey sales in the NFL.
I mean, it's not surprising, right? Like, look, everything about Josh Allen is lovable, and it's able to overcome the small market. Not that there is a small market in the NFL anymore anyway. Everybody's on TV at all the times, and he's been on primetime nonstop the last 2 seasons, but, I mean, he's a human golden retriever, right? Like, he's always smiling. He's loyal as heck. He's a good-looking kid, right? He plays out of his mind. That's what every kid wants to be when they play football. That's what every dad wants their kid to be when they play football. So, of course, that guy's going to be selling jerseys hand over fist.
There's no doubt. Apple pie, America, he is it. He plays hard. He loves his teammates. His teammates love him. That is so just, you can feel it, right? That permeates throughout the whole fan base.
You like to bring it to baseball. What was a guy you played with or on? It was just like that. Was that kind of guy? I see Freddie Freeman as being sort of that guy right now.
That's a great analogy because you look at what the Dodgers are doing and,
But did you play with a guy like that? Some guy you just love for the way he was.
I got to be honest, not in the minors, or not in the majors. In the minors, I did. Scott McCavich. He was a catcher. Man, he was awesome. And just his personality.
Did he ever make it?
I think he had a cup of coffee, but never anything to where, nothing substantial. Scotty Mack, if you're seeing this, I think you should have made it. He was my best catcher.
I'm
with you. No, I think you should have made it too. I'm with you on that.
That's it.
Well, who else was like that? It reminds me, this is going to be this is sort of a suck-up kind of thing to Channel 13 because we're doing it here, is Dan Fates. Dan Fates as a ball player and as a hockey player too, just like that. He was the perfect teammate.
No, I've played in several charity hockey games with Dan Fates, and I could not disagree with what you're saying more. But that's fine, whatever you got to do.
Because you played against him,
No, we were on the same team. I muffed a couple of passes, and he's screaming at me. Who are you, Dan Fates? Get out of my face!
And now look at him.
No, even now I would say, who are you, Dan Fates? Get out of my face.
This is the Rochester Press Box. Our Bill segment was brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like It or Not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Hey, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. Little Guy Getaways. Yeah, Little Getaways, all to do with food right here in town. You can see them now on my latest podcast at thegetawayguy.com.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Keagle Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here. This is the Rochester Press Box and our Like It or Not segment, brought to you by Keagle Brothers Law Firm. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Do not go unprepared. Contact Keagle Law today. Like it or not, your favorite guy, Tom Brady, got a 10-year deal to do football games as a commentator on Fox upon the conclusion of his football career, which may be, 10, 15 years from now.
Look, they always say anytime you can give a record contract of guaranteed money to a guy that's never done a second of that job before in the highest competitive television market, you have to do it. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Because yes, you're getting a name, and everybody talked about it for the day after it happened on Twitter, right? You got to put him in that booth.
Yeah.
And you know how hard it is to do games like that. Jason Witten went back and played football instead of having to go out and do another season again. Tom Brady has no personality, right? He mimics other human beings and their human emotion. He eats only avocados. He goes to bed at 8 o'clock in a windowless room. By the way, I'm not making any of this up. You can check.
Windowless room.
Windowless room at 8 in the morning, probably in a hyperbaric chamber. Here's my guarantee. This is a Pat Duffy guarantee. 2 years, Brady will take himself out of that position because he can't do it, but he's going to make it sound like something else happened. Because, you know how Brady is. You always got to look like, good guy, I'm a good guy, I'm a good guy.
Greg, I think maybe for the first time in his career, he's being set up to fail. I almost agree entirely with what Pat's saying.
I could not agree more with what Pat is saying. I think it's very difficult to go into the booth. I think that to be good at it and to get a 10-year contract is a slap in the face to the guys that are doing it. The idea of being able to relate to somebody, he jokes about the avocado toast and sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, but that's just not the rest of us. Why is Charles Barkley so fun? Why is Shaq so fun? Yeah. Because they eat chicken wings and they fall down and they tackle each other. That's fun to watch because that's what we do when we watch sports.
It doesn't have to be like that because Tony Romo and Chris Collinsworth are two of the best, really good players, but neither of them are Hall of Famers.
But here's why, because they can be self-deprecating. Tony Romo can watch a quarterback do something and go, well, if I would have, same with Chris Collinsworth. Brady can't do that until somebody's got 7 Super Bowl rings, right? Has all of the records. Brady can't do that. By the way, what's not relatable about a wheatgrass juice smoothie for breakfast every day? Get out of my face.
He has always loved Tom Brady.
I mean, think to this point, you don't think there's going to be just gobs and gobs of condescension coming out of Tom's mouth every time he talks?
With the wheatgrass juice stuck in there for breakfast. Condescension, avocado, wheatgrass juice.
If he only tried harder, we would.
Different reasons, but I think we're unanimous here. Quickly, like it or not, the idea maybe of putting 2 teams in Dallas in the NFL?
I do not like it. That's not a good idea in my opinion. I think it's been too long of a history at this point. It's just no. In my opinion, no.
They tried it once, and I always love to bring up the AFL, but there's the Dallas Texans in the early days of the Cowboys, the first 3, and they ran the Texans out of town back then.
Absolutely. If you're going to do it, go back into Texas. You go to Austin, right? Austin is the market you go to. I can't see you splitting that fan base, because could you even split that fan base? To your point, there is such a deep-seated love of the Cowboys. It ain't New York where it's big enough where you could split the Mets off, down in Queens.
Right. Career suicide to put a team in.
I know you're a big fan of Canada. What, two teams in Toronto someday?
For hockey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could fly only because ticket prices are so expensive for the Maple Leafs right now. People will just go watch hockey in Toronto.
Yeah, that's a sport. That's a fan of a sport versus if football was just so popular. But I think that you choose it to call it Fort Worth. Geez, you could literally just have
San Antonio.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could pick any other city in Texas and be able to have another team. I absolutely believe that can happen, just not in Dallas.
Like it or not, brought to you by Keagle Brothers Law. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Unfinished Business is brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Greg will meet or beat any competitor's price and can finance you with zero down. Call today or visit gregtheroofer.com. Better roof, better price. Better call Greg today.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. It is time for Unfinished Business, and Pat, as always, starts.
What a difference a year makes. It was 12 months ago that the Buffalo Sabres finished up their season. Sam Reinhart was gone. Jack Eichel, question mark. Rasmus Ristolainen, same situation. The core of the team that had been trying to be successful for years and failing, no good, and you had the first overall pick after the draft lottery. But what the heck was that going to happen? Was he even going to come, Owen Power, to Buffalo to play? Well, 12 months later, Risto, Samson, Jack, gone. And we find out this week that the Buffalo Sabres own not one, not two, but 3 first-round picks in the draft this year. 9, 16, and to be determined from the Florida Panthers in that Samson deal. Oh, not only that, you have young players in the pipeline that are going to be NHL contributors, something we could not have said last year, the year before that. Oh, and you have pieces on the roster that want to be there and are playing great NHL hockey. Over 100 point pace towards the end of the season under Coach Don Granato. And you have these 3 picks. You're going to hear a lot from Sabres fans over the next couple of weeks about how the Sabres should trade 1 or 2 of those picks to go find a goaltender or a piece to put in right now. Do not do it. You got the kids down in Rochester that'll be able to come up and contribute, and you're just going to block their development. And this gives you the ability where if you miss on 1 or 2 guys that you think are contributors in Buffalo and Rochester right now, you can replace them. This is a golden spot. We waited 10 years for this, but we're finally there. Hold on a little bit longer. Everything's going to be okay.
Baseball is back. That's the best way I can explain it. I think that for many years it lost a certain appeal. It went to analytics. It started to become very much of a computer-generated game. I think of coaching at the college level and how much development is what we focused on for so many years, and it was Rapsodo, and it was blast motion, and it was all the technology and how we could get guys better. And now that technology has permeated through the big leagues, you're starting to see passion and chemistry and teamwork and discipline and caring about your fellow teammate. That stuff is starting to create its way back into Little League and college baseball. This weekend, RIT travels to play Ithaca, U of R, and Clarkson. And mostly those 4 teams were the teams that seemed to play together the most. The other teams had the same talent. This team had the best chemistry. So although technology is a big part of baseball, I love the fact that technology has brought us back to the roots. And baseball and all of sports is still about passion, and I'll take that any day.
The National Football League has grown up a lot since the days that it was a part-time job for its players who became professional wrestlers in the offseason to make ends meet. We're talking about you, Ernie Ladd, the big cat. But this isn't about that, and besides, I'm the only one that really remembers him. The NFL that Ladd left behind in 1968 has become quite the racket. Beginning with training camp in late July, the league schedules 20 weeks of preseason and regular season games and blocks out another 5 to crown a champion in February. March brings free agency and the combine, April the draft, and May the official release of the schedule. Now, on the surface, the schedule release held just last week isn't that big a deal, but there are people, many of them I suspect, who used the release of the Buffalo Bills' 2022 season schedule as a roadmap for their lives over the next year. Where to go, who to see. If you actually plan to do something constructive, do it around the bye week. It is a little sad, a little bit amusing, but very much real. 54 years after the big cat hung up the pads and 35 years after being elected to the World Wrestling Federation Hall of Fame, Ernie Ladd would have to be impressed with what his part-time employer has since become. That is Unfinished Business, and that is our show. Once again, Greg, great to have you, man. Good insight.
I appreciate it. It's always a good time talking.
And, reasonable insight out of this side.
Thank you so much for describing exactly what I did on Thursday.
What is the Violet Gents, by the way?
Oh, but wait to get off that. It's a hockey lifestyle company for cool people, so you wouldn't understand,
I
Bill.
would not. but I did have to ask. Hey, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.